to another edition of Real Talk with Real People, a candid conversation with Dr. Karoline Bethea-Jones. I am your host, and today we will continue where we left off last month in our discussion of the power of words. Last month, my guest and I, Miss Theresa Henry, talked the magical power of words. Yes, words can be quite magical, and when used correctly, can and will conjure up spells. But wait a minute, not all spells are evil. The word itself, spell, as in to spell a word, influenced the idea of casting a spell. It's like using magic to influence others. And that way, we are casting spells. There is a belief that the usage of particular words had powerful negative effects. Words had the ability to curse or to bless. It is how we think about words that matter most. Our thoughts produce the words that we speak. Guess what? Our thoughts create words, and our words create worlds. Your thoughts have incredible power to shape your life. It also has the power to shape the lives of others. We must become aware of our thoughts because our thoughts influence our beliefs, and our beliefs influence our actions. What we think impacts what we feel, and what we feel is often revealed through our speech. In the book, As a Man Thinketh, it argues the point that the key to mastering your life is harnessing the power of your thoughts. Now, according to research, this will help you cultivate the philosophy and attitude of a positive, successful person. One of the 3 lessons of the book reveal how your actions are extensions of your thoughts, which mean that you shape the world just as much as the world shapes you. Now, my guest and I will have a candid conversation about how to raise your frequency by transforming your mind. I believe that thinking differently will change the way we communicate. And since we are all still talking about the power of words in this segment, learning how to transform our minds will result in a more positive lifestyle and improve our communication. My name is Dr. Karoline Bethea-Jones, and I want to welcome you to my show. My co-host today is Miss Anita Crum, and my returning guest will be Miss Theresa Henry. But right now, I want to introduce you to my guest, Mr. Shamba Farrar. Welcome, all of you, to our show. Shamba, how are you doing?
Best day of my life. How about you?
It's the best day of my life, too. Thank you, sir. So, you already know what we're talking about. So I want to know what your views are. I want to know what you think about what we think and how it connects to the power of words. But before we get into that conversation, I want you to tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, greetings, everyone. My name is Shamba Farrar. Me and Karoline, we grew up together in the 60s into the 70s on Fairview Avenue in Teaneck, New Jersey. So that's where I got my start, in Teaneck, New Jersey. And was born in Patterson. And from there, went to Teaneck High School. And from there, went to Rutgers University. And from there, graduated Rutgers and began my journey of self-discovery. My journey in self-discovery led me into social work and then to pursue my passion, which is the arts. And I just retired, as a matter of fact, from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where I worked for 35 years. I've been a teacher in martial arts, in art, and I'm a writer. I write poetry, paint. I practice the art of living, let's say. And that's a little bit about me.
I want to talk about a little bit before we get into our discussion. I want to talk about your work at the Met. That sounds real exciting. Let's talk about that.
Well, it was a blessing to work there for 35 years. I remember going with my mother to see the exhibit of King Tut. And I believe that was like 1978. And then it was magic. You know, I remember saying to myself that I wish that I could contribute something to this, of my work, to this institution. And lo and behold, the opportunity came to get employment. When I graduated college, I went there to work for free, to do an internship, and they turned me down. And then a couple months later, an opportunity came to work in security, and they've been paying for me to be there and to show my artwork there. And I've tried to honor that opportunity by really putting things in the museum and expressing individuals from our community in ways in which I know that they would never have allowed to enter those doors. And I did it in such a way that now when they have shows, they ask me, where would I like to put the art up? And, you know, and it's just been a blessing.
Sounds good. It sounds to me that your life was already shaped by your mother exposing you to the museum at such an early age, which brings us to the point of our conversation about transforming one's mind. If you have not have been exposed to the museum at such an early age, I wonder if you would have ended up there. What do you think?
Well, my mother, you know, as you know, was into the civil rights and human rights and women's rights, and she got her degree and her master's and all of those things starting at the age of 40, because these opportunities were not really readily available for her generation. And so therefore, the first person I remember who introduced me to death was Malcolm X. She made sure that we went to his viewing in 1965. So my whole psyche was really shaped by the times that we grew up in. I happened to be born in 1960, and 1960 was a powerful decade of change for us. And our generation has the responsibility to pass it on to our children, our grandchildren, and those who will come after. And I've never taken that lightly. I've always seen that as a great honor and responsibility. And I've been so blessed to come into contact with people who also have come to that realization in their life, in their journey. And so it may not be many, but I'd rather have a few good men and women on my side than 1,000 fakes and phonies. And so I've been blessed in that respect.
You have been blessed. But how important do you think it was that you had someone or lots of people in your corner that gave you opportunities that maybe you would not have had? How important was that? Because the conversation that we're about to have today is we're going to talk about how what we think and how we perceive things actually changes the way we communicate, and how we change our own lives by what we believe and what we think and what we've been exposed to. How important is that to you? Or how important do you think that is to an individual shaping their own lives by the influence that they've received early on or even later on in life? How is changing one's mind about something play a big part in that? Now, I don't want to speak too fast without us getting the opportunity to talk about the ins and outs of how we think and how it's connected to how we speak.
Mhm. Well, I think it's very paramount because in truth and in fact, the only person you really have control over is you. You don't have control over no one else. I mean, they have choices, just like you have choices, and I have choices. And based on our choices, I think that we begin to sculpt our life. I don't think my life really got on course until I took control and gained confidence in the choices that I was now making for me, you know. And when I embraced the creative aspect of my journey, I recognized that that hey, creativity comes from. I believe in scripture. It says, first there was the Word, and the Word was of God. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, maybe I can write. You know, we were the first generation, as you will attest to be bused to white schools. You know, our parents fought for equal education. We were the first ones to live that, to be exposed to other people in other parts of Teaneck, you know, that it didn't reflect people of color. That had a tremendous effect on me. You know, for a while, I always felt less than. You know what I mean? Because we were bombarded. I mean, I went to kids' homes and stuff like that, and they lived in damn mansions. It seemed like, you know, in other parts of Teaneck, and I was exposed to that, you know, and it played a part. You know, I seen, you know, how other people had greater advantages to things, you know, and it affected me for a while. They had things and opportunities, and it wasn't until I began to really study myself. You know, my brother Khalif, who you'll talk to later, he asked me a question. When did Malcolm really start to take his exposure, being exposed to him, and seeing him in the physical, start to take root? And it didn't start to take root until I read the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was in high school. Then I began to connect the dots, you know, and then I began to listen to his speeches again and know that I was in the environment of those things. I was blessed for that. And then, oh my, I began to see how people have taken, you know, I remember I would listen to Alain Locke, and he would talk about how European culture has done nothing but drain African culture. You know, and though they hate us, they copy everything that we do. You understand? And then I began to see, well, wait a second, you know, like stories like the Long Ranger. The Long Ranger, the brother's name was Reeves, and he was a black man, you know, and they took him, cut him out, and made a white man with a black mask and his Tonto. When I started to understand and connect the dots, I started getting a better appreciation for who I am and what I've contributed. And then when I've done that, and then with my artwork, you know, and then coming together with other people who are awakening, yourself included, you know, I said, wait a second, somebody played a game on us, you know. I've even had some of my friends who happen to be white. You know, because I know what white means. When people claim their whiteness, I know what it means. You know, I told this one guy, you know, I said, he said to me, we were co-workers. And he said, I told him, I have no white friends, none. And he said, see, I knew you were one of those type of people. But I said, but you don't know anything about me. I said, but I know you. I said, I have people in my family who happen to be white. I said, some of them, because of what I've seen them do for me, I'll even put my life on the line. I said, but I know who you are. And I know what you mean by white. You mean like I'm master and you slave. And when I said that, I turned around, he was gone. Because he knew I was telling the truth, you know. Okay. So you have to know yourself, you know. And whenever I tell that to people, I say, yo, you just happen to be, like I happen to be Black, I happen to be this, but we're much more than that. Who's willing to go to the much more? If you're not willing to go to the much more, then leave me alone. You understand? You have work to do. That's how I see it in my world.
We're hoping that we're going to go to the much more. So joining me right now is my co-host, Miss Anita Crum. Hi, Anita.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And also we have on the line with us, Miss Theresa Henry. Miss Theresa Henry was my guest last month as we talked about the power of words. Can you unmute yourself, Theresa? Thank you. So how are you, Theresa?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing excellent. All is well. And it's good to be here.
It's good to have you back. So we're beginning a conversation now. This month, we're talking about transforming our minds. We're talking about the power of words. We're going to put this all together. By the time I end this segment, we're going to understand how we have power over our lives and how we can change our lives just by changing our thoughts, just by putting things in perspective. But I don't want to be in this conversation by myself. So I'm going to open this conversation up for every single person. I see we also have a friend of Shamba on the line with us as well. Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Good evening. Peace and blessings. My name is Khalif Hadi. I'm a good friend and honored to be a good friend of Brother Shamba Farrar, 20 years plus. I'm a native of Newark. I'm a parent, 2 beautiful daughters, 2 beautiful grandchildren. My granddaughter's born on my birthday. I've been a willing and working participant in the city of Newark for 20 years. I work with the youth of Newark, over 100,000 youth that I have personally engaged in job development, summer youth programming, work readiness, job readiness. And, I've been bread and buttered, as they say, a son of Newark, been able to give back. And, it was an honor to meet you last Sunday, and your inspired words, resonated. And when Shamba told me you had a podcast, I said, you know what? I need to be there. And your introduction was spot on. One thing that I've learned in life is not how smart you are, but it's how you're smart. People learn differently, and their intelligence is in different areas. It's a matter of respect. When we confronted with difference and indifference is how expansive are we willing to be when we deal with each other. Sometimes it's just a matter of waiting a few more seconds and giving a little bit more consideration before you respond, because there's many ways, to get to the home plate. You know what I mean? There's not one way. And keep in mind, we all creative people. That's been a lesson that I've learned in life. Patience is truly a virtue. And to the degree of our understanding of things, that's going to be forever and a day. Wisdom, I believe, is a divine gift. And you earn it. You earn wisdom, And I think your topic is on point. We need to empower ourselves, with strategy. And each one of us tonight, hopefully will take whatever experience that this night manifests, to the outer surface, like a pebble thrown into the pond, and the ripples continue to vibrate. So that being said, I'm honored to be here, and I'm listening. I'm a listener. So thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to our show. All right, so let's get this conversation going. All right, so Miss Anita, I know you got some words of wisdom that you would like to say. So why don't we get this conversation started? Where should we start?
Well, I like what Brother Shamba said. Who is willing to go to the much more? I thought that was rather deep. Some of the things he was talking about were some of the things that you mentioned I think before we went live, about our book club earlier this afternoon that we have, and dealing with authenticity, finding your authentic self. And one of the sections was about awakening, seeing yourself. So I thought, he's tapping right into what it's on the heels of what we were talking about, and awakening people and seeing. And that's pretty powerful, because from where I stand, the way I understand just life and living, you're either conforming and doing what everyone else is doing, or you are living your true self, marching forward. So awakening has to happen in order to not conform to what everyone else is doing, but going your own path, just doing what you feel that you need to do for your life. And I think as, people of color, it probably behooves us to not conform, but to live our lives, our best lives, because conformity is living in the colonized world, if you will. So I thought that was spot on, but I'd like to just start there with Shamba and talking about who is willing to go to the much more after that comment he made about awakening people and seeing.
Well, the way I address it, that keeps me balanced, keeps me focused, keeps me in a state of peace of mind. Because I believe I heard someone say, peace of mind is worth more than silver and gold.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, I just believe that I lead by example. And when we grew up in the 60s, many of our parents and their generations were not given many of the opportunities that we take for granted. And so therefore, in my rearing, I'm not sure anybody else, but I know on my block, and Karoline can attest to this, I mean, you had many who would say, do as I say, but not as I do. And that's because they were working through many things not being available for them, but they had all this potential, even reading, coming into books and, and thoughts and stuff. But they still had to work out their reality. Do as I say, but not as I do. When I came to a sense of awakening, I recognized it had to be do as I say and do as I do. If you want to stay with do as I say and not as I do, the children of the next generation, the one that are looking to us for guidance, they'll be the first ones to kill you. You understand? Because we went astray, I believe, in our values system. everything has changed. You know, we experienced those things. You know, I wrote a poem entitled A Child of the 80s. And it says, I'm a child of the 80s. I long for my Mercedes. And I gotta have all the ladies for see I'm a child of the 80s. The 60s, that's in the past. Black power can kiss my ass. Give me that fast cold cash because see I'm a child of the 80s. The 70s, they came around, but no leaders to be found. And all that promise never left the ground was a result of the 70s. And then disco, yeah, disco with its pulsating beat, it quietly lulled my mind to sleep. While in my solitude, sister, I still weep from the pain. And now it seems that all hope is gone, yet my dope still prolonged. Please, sister, tell me what has gone wrong in the 80s. For see, I'm a child of the 80s. I'll sell my soul for my Mercedes. And I gotta have all the ladies for see, I'm a child of the 80s. And it's been a while since I've read that, as you could tell. But I remember one of my teachers held me in check because I had a problem with Tupac Shakur, and we were talking about him. He says, but you don't know that, brother. I said, well, why you say that? I just don't like that, you know, the energy and the words that he's putting out and everything. He said, but you never read his poetry and you never studied his life. Get this book. So I went and got the book and I studied him. And then we had a conversation. He says, now do you understand why I had you get that book? I said, yeah. I said, because if I was born when Tupac was born, I would be Tupac, huh? He said that exactly. Because the genius that this young brother had. I mean, his mother, what you say his mother had him reading, who are those philosophers and stuff? Socrates.
Imhotep.
All of these things as a child in his formative years. And then we abandoned him. We, Black people, right on the revolution and all of that, abandoned him. For what? For things. Moving on up to the east side.
Okay, well, with that being said, then we're talking about how we perceive our thoughts and how our thoughts can change our world. So, Theresa, you've been quiet. You've been quiet, my dear. So, what do you got to add to this conversation concerning our thoughts and how they change our world and create?
We I hear the brother, and we've come to a place now where there has been a change. There's been a shift in the atmosphere. We're now entering, one might say, the fifth dimension or the Aquarian age. And speaking of thoughts and our mental capacity, we want to think about the solution. We're now at a point now where we know what's wrong or what appears to be wrong. And like the brother's saying, see, we forgot who we were. We were worshiping something out there, outside of ourselves. Now we're coming into the awareness of who we really are. Slowly but surely, I'm noticing it. I've been speaking about this for years. Not only have I been speaking about it, I've been, trying the spirit by the spirit, remembering who I am, studying the ancestors, studying what the true meaning is of knowing thyself, understanding the mental magic, which our ancestors use. Most people think that magic is like voodoo or hoodoo. Magic is the secret of our minds to be able to think of a thing and then it appears just like that. We are creative vessels, and we simply must watch what we say, be careful on how we're thinking. We've got to change our thinking because thoughts are things and it's energy. We have to examine our beliefs. We have to make a paradigm shift. And a paradigm shift is changing how we think about things, because it does determine how our behavior is, and we've got to be the example, the light, so that our young people will be able to see the light, be able to, because I hear people say to me many times, Theresa, you're always excited. You're always pumped up, even in the midst of this paydemic. It's not a pandemic. This is a time now where it's like a reset. It's almost like the source is changing the way we think to be able to attract what we want. And those who are on that frequency, on that energy, are doing just that. The glass really is half full. It really is half full. If we see it half empty, it will be half empty. And that's what's going into our conscious mind, which is being lodged into our subconscious mind. Once a thought from all of our five senses, from what's going on out here, yes, what we see, what's going on. I lived in Newark, I lived in Harlem when it wasn't sexy, and I'm from Bed-Stuy, do or die.
Do or die.
Brooklyn. So I've seen it all. I've been in the midst of it. However, then there are some on the other side that understand the spiritual laws that Yeshua brought us, that Allah brought us. And the founder of my association, Father George W. Hurley, from the time I was a little kid, he reminded us who we are. In 1884, he was born. Not too many people know about him, but during the 1920s, most didn't understand why the people that he was helping was buying homes in the 1920s during the Depression, starting businesses, creating whatever they wanted, because he taught us the baton was passed from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, how to think. How do we think? We literally can have whatever we want. There's a lot of things, if we can go back, well, study is number one, but try it. You can think of something that you really want, and the feeling is the key. Because once you feel it, there's something that's evoked around your vibrations. Something being God, whatever you want to call it. Because we are creative vessels. Yeah. So to make a long story short, this is a time now where we have to think about progress, think about what we want, and not only think about it, if those of us are out in the public like this, we've got to be examples and help out young people, old people, whomever.
That's right.
Our light shines so that others may see the good work.
That's
Change
right.
the way we think, and not allow the system to change us by giving us salt and sugar. That's all you find in our communities. We've got to remember how to eat. We've got to eat the food from the earth as God has given us. Herbs, roots. The ancestors knew this. And the ancestors are coming back now because now they're talking more about these things. So that's what I think the bottom line is. We've got to really understand the secrets of the mental magic and how to use our full power of our mind and our heart.
So Anita,
yeah,
how I'm giving you an opportunity to jump in here and be a part of this conversation. How do we change the way we think when we have been spoon-fed information all of our lives? And as both Brother Shamba and Sister Theresa has mentioned, in our community, we have been spoon-fed information that's not always in our benefit. How do we change the way we think so that we can start producing better for ourselves and also for our descendants? Our ancestors did the best they could with what they had, as Brother Shamba mentioned, but at some point we are going to have to really start changing the way we do things. So how do we change our minds? How do we get others to see things differently so that we can start to build our communities up in the manner in which we want it to be built up?
Yeah, Sister Theresa dropped a lot of gems there and a lot of things that I identify with. certainly how to think. A moment ago, I was talking about conformity. Conformity is that it's so that you can continue along with what's going on. Just eat what's being sold in the stores. You go to the grocery store, they tell you shop on the outer aisles of the market. That's where the true rich food is. As long as we continue to eat in a certain way, it will continue to keep our minds, I guess, poison, the sugars, the packaged foods, and the processed foods. But once you step outside of that, then that's where you begin to feel the change within the body and also within the mind, and you begin to question, well, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? And look at the conversations that's being held. Look at what's happening into my community. So where do we begin? How do we start? Well, we can start with one another. There's certainly within your immediate network of people to begin to have the conversations and to show how it is that things can change. And I think it's quite powerful, but a huge paradigm shift for someone to grasp the concept of what you think is what you can have and be, because it's like hocus pocus. It's like, no, if I have some hard cold cash, I could be anybody that I want to be. I could have the Mercedes, I could have the latest gear, but it's like, so we just have to pick an area because it's so vast. It's like instant gratification. If you got a shiny car, brand new car, you're in, you look good, and that's good, but it's so much deeper than that. It's so much deeper than that. So I would say begin where you are, have the conversations, have these discussions. This podcast will certainly open up minds to the fact that there's another way to do it. Question, how do you think? Question the fact that what you think about is what you can become. We have that capability to do it. It's not hocus pocus. You can just try it on a small scale and see what happens. But it is a huge undertaking, and I think we can just each start in our own corner of, our immediate networks of people.
Yeah.
Ashe.
I'm gonna ask this question: How does spirituality fit into all of this? We are a spiritual people, and so I'm gonna put this question out for anyone who's willing to answer it. How does spirituality fit in our belief system and what we're able to do, and what we have not been doing? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the spiritual side of the transformation of our minds. Anybody can jump in. I just want to pose the question. Anybody can tackle it if they feel they want to tackle something so big.
Can I share this with you? Can I share this to start the conversation?
Yes, you can.
Sure.
Working at the Met, I've seen how we are portrayed. I see how they censor Black creativity. I see the politics of art, and I never saw Black people or the Black diaspora of contemporary artists represented fairly. So I would always see my heroes and sheroes, that they weren't on the walls. And if they were, it was like a caricature, something that was less threatening. And I remember Harriet Tubman came to me in spirit, and she said, "But you can put me in here." I said, "Whoa." I said, "I really can." And I put a piece up called No Debate, and I portrayed her in truth and her cause. and her reason. And one thing I want to share with you sisters, I remember she said something to this effect, that yes, I freed 300 and so brothers and sisters and brought them to freedom. However, I could have freed hundreds of more if they only believed that they were slaves.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think, I'm paraphrasing, but I think everybody has connected with that one. And so we're in no different of a time. We have to recognize not everybody wants to be free.
Yeah.
And so therefore, my thing is, I'm not trying to convince nobody at this stage of the game. I'm 62. I know that, I have, X amount of time to make things happen. For those who are ready, for those who are not ready, that's somebody else's task. You know what I mean? But I have to make sure I'm on point and on record while I still have a body, while I still have time. And when I do that, I'm telling you, I'm living my best life. You know what I'm saying? I see it in your smile. You're living your best life.
Yeah.
You ain't sitting around trying to, allow somebody to make you feel insecure about who you are and this and that. You're promoting your best self, which means you're promoting the Most High that's in you. This young brother, they call me and my brother Khalid OGs, right? I said, so what's an OG, brother, to you? And these young brothers, they believe you're the original gangster. I said, I'm no gangster. I says, I'm no murderer. I'm no thief. I'm no liar. I says, I'm none of that. Well, then, what's that mean then? I says, I come from the original God, and the original God is within me. So, brother, that's what makes me a true OG. Oh, man.
Dropping knowledge. Dropping knowledge.
But respect. But that's come to me through walking the walk.
Yeah.
Not just talking the talk, but talking the talk. And then a young brother told me, he said, I'd rather you not talk the talk, but I watch the way you walk your walk.
Yes.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Real.
Yeah, and to that point right there, Brother Shamba, just keep speaking your truth. It's not up to you to make sure those that need to hear it. It's those that have the discerning ear and hunger for something different, because they know the okie doke that they're being dealt is okie doke. So you keep on preaching your word, and that's your assignment. That's what you have to do. Keep doing that, and all those that are looking, searching, and wanting truth, they'll hear you.
Absolutely. And let me share this with the sister who talk about our magic. Let me tell you, the other day I was on the train, and I'm getting ready to go on vacation, right? Because I just retired. So I just had lunch with a brother friend of mine, and I had to get off at, I was on the G train. I had to get off at Hoyt to head back to Manhattan. And my mind was someplace else. I missed my stop. I got off at Bergen, someplace like that. And I said, wait a second. I missed my stop. So I got off, and then I said, what is this about? I gotta stay focused. So I got up, I went to the other side to go back downtown to get off at Hoyt. And I noticed that the train must have just came. And it's just me there, right? And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I look to my left, and there are 3 books that somebody left. Now me, I'm an antiquarian gleaner, meaning I take from books, ancient books, and I gather and I put together my philosophy. I touch the books. The first book was Richard Wright, Native Son. Whoa. I said, no, I'm not going to touch that one because I read it. So I'm going to leave that for somebody else. I touched another one. That wasn't me. But then I touched this one. Y'all read what that says?
Wow.
Hers to create. Oh, wow.
The power to create. When I touched this and I read this, I recognized, well, wait a second. This is what my teacher in Trinidad, who I'm going to honor because he just passed away, this was what he was expounding on with his work.
Mm.
The same lectures, everything. I called his partner who does wrote his his introductions and put in pieces into his books, because my teacher put together 12, 13 books compiled and did paintings that are extraordinary. If you ever want to see his work, his name is Leroy Clark. Google him up and you will see the level of work that he has done.
Leroy Carr, as in Carr.
Clark, Clarke.
Thank you.
Yes. And I was like, I'm
about magic.
huh? Yes. And when I talk about magic, I mean, this is, we termed it phenomenology, not magic, but phenomenology. And so once you engage in just allowing yourself, not trying to control it, define it for yourself, but accept it, that it's something beyond your experience. Break it down, Brother Khalid. Talk
Yes.
okay. You understand?
All right. Staying on track just a little bit.
Okay.
The spirituality question.
Yes. Theresa, you want to take a whack at that question?
Yeah, well, I was reading something just the other day. It's so funny you should ask about that. And I'd like to share what I read. And it really did touch home for me. Spirituality is a broad concept with room for many perspectives. In general, it includes a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. And it typically involves a search for meaning in life. As such, it is a universal human experience, something that touches us all. People may describe a spiritual experience as sacred or transcendent, or simply as deep sense of aliveness and an interconnectedness. Some may find that their spiritual life is intricately, I always get that word weird, linked to their association with a church, a temple, a mosque, or a synagogue. Others may pray or find comfort in a personal relationship with God or a higher power. Still others seek meaning through their connection to nature or art, like your sense of purpose. Your personal definition of spirituality may change throughout your life, adapting to your own experiences and relationships.
Yes, powerful.
Ashe. Spot on.
Yeah.
The question is, how does spirituality play the transformation of one's thoughts? Are we deep into what we have been? I don't want to say spoon-fed. That's a pretty harsh word. I'm going to say, is it difficult for someone who is very into their religion, I'll say, to change their way of thinking in such a way that would change their perspective on their life and ultimately change their life? Anita, I'm gonna let you hit that one, since you and I have been talking spiritually for a while, because we're all part of the same ministry. But spiritually, how does the transforming of your mind on a spiritual sense lead to a broader way of thinking and a changing of one's life? Yeah, it's a weird question, but I think it all ties in. Yeah.
It definitely all ties in. But when you think about spirituality, I immediately think of people's belief in God and what they've come up, like what their upbringing was within the church in that relationship to the church and what it means. Now, if you're an individual who, goes to church and you go to church to hear what the pastor has to say, and you don't put forth any of your any energy or time to further understand what those words that you heard from the preacher and get that interpretation and apply it to your life as it is today, because it's all relative, then that particular individual, the renewing of their mind, in my opinion, is that it can only be refreshed at the pulpit in the church. Now, for those who take it seriously and they want to further explore and they spend time digging deeper into the word to understand what the word is, then they're onto something. That actually is the process too, and of renewing your mind, because information is presented and whatever level you understand it, but once you dive deeper into the word and do the research and then begin to apply it to your life, then there's that renewal, because you're getting the essence of what that word is. And once you're on that track to do that, then you understand how it all works. You understand how you can take those verses, get an understanding of meaning, and see how it works within your life and change your mindset to how you view life. And that's that key, or that pathway to which you can renew your mind. But that's how I understand it. And I've gone through some transformations, just actually spending time with you and knowing you for the past 4 years. And it was something in which I was seeking, and I seek and I found, and instantly it was an eye opener, and it still is to this day. So there is a way in which it can happen, but it's based on the individual. It depends on the awareness. Brother Samba, opened up with that. It's the awareness and what it is and how you're looking to be fed.
Can I ask you one thing? How does courage factor into that?
The courage, I would say, factors into it to releasing the stereotypes of what you've grown up to know and be of your religion. Religion is like the process of it, but it's spirituality because it's individual and you grow spiritually from that. So the courage that comes in is to let go of what you've always known and grew up with. And once you can do that, because those are strongholds, we look back, auntie, grandma, big auntie, big grandma, everybody does the same thing, and you don't dare stray from that.
It could be a lonely journey, wouldn't you say?
It can be. And
right.
Yes,
Okay.
Families have split apart. Yeah, families have split apart because, you choose to believe and don't want to, you question the pastor. Yeah. Oh, that's blasphemy to question a pastor. Are you kidding?
Please.
Oh, he's coming for dinner. They have chicken and shut up. As my grandmother used to say, children are to be seen, not heard.
Yeah.
So.
But as a child, I did as a child. As an adult, I put away childish things. Preach, brother. Absolutely. No, but we've all heard it. But we all, and you're right. But we put away those childish things. So now it's like, okay, grandma, I'm grown now, so I can be able to speak my mind. Yes, I can. I'm gonna have a part of this conversation. That's right. And with that being said,
things.
That's why I appreciate all of you, because we'll tell you in a second, it ain't a whole bunch that we could sit down and just have a conversation like adults.
Yeah.
I hear grown-up people and they talking about Spider-Man and Batman. You know what I mean? I mean, come on, y'all know it too. I mean, this is the latest movie that they putting out. Spider-Man, Batman, some old crazy nonsense. This is how we're being programmed. You understand? But when
conformity.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
The courage to create.
So how much work do we have to do to
Girl, I'm tired already.
What you say?
She tired before I even asked the question. She already tired. I didn't even ask the question. So how much work do we have to do to build our community up? Because what is the mindset that needs to happen to get everybody on the same page?
Everybody don't want to be on the same page.
Right, Shamba, I was going to say that. I know you already mentioned that that individuals don't want to. But is there something that I guess what I'm trying to say is, what needs to happen before we can get to a place where we could change our outlook on the way we see our community? You follow what I'm saying? I think Theresa alluded to it earlier when she was talking about being able to have what we say. How many people really truly understands that we literally have control over what happens in our life? I think we're so quick to blame someone else for our disadvantages or our shortcomings. But how much of that is actually on us? And how do we get individuals, ourselves included, to change our perspective of the way our life is and literally begin to change from the inside out? It's important for our community when we talk about us as a race and our people in general, our ancestors and what our ancestors sacrificed for us. But what do we need to do on an individual basis and also on a collective basis to get us to be on the same page mentally? And I know, aside from the ones who don't want to do anything, but there are, I would like to believe that there are quite a few of individuals who are changing already the way they think about things, even the way they think about religion, the way they thought about their ancestors, the way history has portrayed us. So I think there's more individuals who are willing to make the change than they are not wanting to make the change. That's just my opinion. But what is your opinion? What do you
there is a lot of people that's willing to make the change. You know, inch by inch, it's a cinch. Each one teach one. You know, as I told you, Karoline, I was kind of sent to Newark, and I had what was called the Beacon House. And that was like a little mini mansion on the south side of Newark, not the north side. So I was in an area where people needed help. And what I did was I started having the workshops. You remember I had the workshops about relationships, spirituality, the wealth gap, especially relationships between Black men and Black women. We would have forums every quarter to discuss that, how we could come together. We would have forums or seminars about money, how money works, about the wealth gap, and how we had to develop that prosperity consciousness to be able to attract wealth, to remember that we are already wealthy. No, not only the spiritual laws of money, but also the natural laws of money. What's a mutual fund? What's dollar cost averaging? What's compounding? Where do we invest? No one knows about these things. Well, I shouldn't say no one, but we in our communities, they don't teach us how to make our money grow. They teach us how to spend money. So it starts with us having conversations like we're having now. Meet with groups. People are hungry for the information. And when you have these, I was surprised because every time I did the seminars or workshops, and I would meet people later on and say, you know, thank God you had that workshop because now I understand how to make my money grow. Or thank you because now my husband and I are coming together even more. We just have to just take one step at a time. Each one teach one.
Yeah, I should.
like to add to that, Shamba, or anyone else?
Please.
I would like to contribute to Theresa Henry's truth. The first thing we need to do is believe. The second thing we need to do is believe in the spirit of love. Faith will come as a result of those two. But the reality is, I mean, I've been in city government. I've been in the community. Those things get removed very quickly. Because they're removed, it disconnects the real people. People respond to what they can connect to you in love,
Yes.
what they can connect to you in truth, what they can connect to you in the spirit. When it only becomes other than that, there's a disconnect. And until we realize the power never is going to be without love, without believing that we can be better, do better. You know, that's the leadership that's lacking. You know, who represents that? You know, like fighting the impossible fight. That's our legacy. You know, most of our accomplishments have come as a result of doing things that if you had paper and pencil and did math, we wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So the reality is believing, but also, why are we believing? Do we love our people? Do we love ourselves? And I have experienced, you know, individuality is reigning right now. That doesn't mean it's going to reign forever.
Right.
But that's what we up against.
Yes.
Individuality. And unity is always going to prevail. Always. But the one that can tie us together got to come correctly. Many people have tried and they fail. You got to have love. You got to have belief. You got to have faith. They say prayer is the key and faith unlocks the door. That's much more than the words I just spoke. We have a history. We don't have to recreate the wheel. You know, we take what worked and reapply, repurpose it. That's a new approach. Let's repurpose.
Yes.
And I find people just want to act like they need to recreate for this time. We don't. And perhaps it's about value. Perhaps because the African is the origin of populating the world. Perhaps everybody doesn't have to have a darker hue, but we, with our knowledge, know that they're African origin. The deal is aligning with your values. People who share your values. That's the power. You know, we got to be principled people. We have to acknowledge what is valuable to us. And that's what we can stand on. You know, that's powerful. And as much as possible, stay away from when they say, well, they're from a different race. Race is a division. We all from Africa. If the first people came out of Africa, then we all African. If you really think about it, we all African. That's the origins of life. So if we can now push forward and look at who is ready and aligned with our values, now that's powerful. And that's the day we're in. Because others would say, but they're African American, they're Caribbean, they're Italian, they're not even African American. Everybody comes from Africa. Now what? Now what? Now what? You know, look at that thought. Everybody comes from Africa. At some point in time, you know.
And then everybody come from the unseen.
But, you know, the point is that we're being divided more than we're being unified.
Yeah.
And we play a role in that based on our understanding. So I'm sharing with you all tonight is that the people that share your values, that are ready, if they're ready, that means they've done some work.
Ah, shit.
And
Shame.
we don't have time to waste looking at it any less. We need to look at it greater than.
Yeah.
The lesser than doesn't work for what we need to do. It's the greater than. And, you know, that's my solution. Let me add to this. I reviewed a study some years ago about how do you get people to change and transform. I took the Landmark Education Forum. I treated myself to my 45th birthday, and I went for a weekend, 3 days in South Plainfield. For me, it was very beneficial. I learned a great deal and I applied it and it worked. So what I'm saying, what I'm sharing is that when you learn how to create new possibilities for yourself and for your life, that's enacting the power of transformation. But you have to have belief. You have to have faith. You gotta believe you're valuable. So if you believe something that's coming out of your imagination, and it's relevant to you being a free person versus being an enslaved person to something, people, places, or things.
Yes.
Believe, and it's the faith. And Landmark, that piece about creating new possibilities. I mean, that was the most powerful takeaway. But changing one's diet will allow people to begin to understand that they can see something, they can see results. They said if you can change or a person changes their diet, there's nothing they can't do. So I just want to also put that out there to consider that. What does it take to help a person change their diet? Because they change their diet, they got to change their mindset, but that might be indirect. What they want is losing weight, feeling better, feeling energized.
Yeah.
So indirectly, it's a mask. But ultimately, they're using everything we would want them to use. And once they do that, there's nothing they can't change. That's transformation.
That is transformation.
And that was excellent, sir. And there's really not much to add after that. That was actually very enlightening. Thank you for sharing. So we're at the end of this broadcast, and I literally can talk to all of you all night long. All of you have brought so much exciting and interesting information to this topic. I'm going to ask one question before, as we're leaving, and I'm going to ask it of everyone, and we're going to go around the room. Just give me your short answer, not your long answer, your short answer. Where do we go from here? And I'm going to start with you, Theresa, and I'm going to move this way since we just heard from the brother. Where do we go from here, Theresa? Where do we go from here?
Like I said, each one teach one. I continue to do the seminars, the workshops, the gathering people together so that we can have these type of conversations, educate, and basically teach and help our people to remember who they are, remember where we come from.
That's it.
Study to know thyself, do research, definitely eat well so you can feel better.
That's right.
Learn about the different roots and the herbs that not only help you feel better, it helps you even think better.
That's right.
And like Khalif said, love. Just love more. Be kind, be sweet. That's very attractive and magnetic, and during this time, enjoy yourself.
That's right.
Self-care.
Best time to be alive.
Enjoy yourself. I mean, no depress the conversations. Just buy whatever you want to buy, and say, well, what about the money? Money is energy. For some reason, when you buy, you create a void. The money fills. It just comes from it's amazing. It's magic. It's magic. You become very attractive. No, just have fun. Really have fun. Go to the park. During the pandemic, I was in Liberty State Park all the time. My friends was like, "Are you crazy?" No, that's nature. Get to nature. Hug a tree. Ground yourself. walk on the grass. Of course, when it gets warm, you know, ground yourself, become one with nature. So that's basically what I'm thinking of.
Thank you. What, Miss Anita? What are your thoughts? Your final
Yeah,
thoughts?
somewhat on the heels of what Theresa was mentioning, being the example. So you can be the example with changing your diet, and then that will, when your diet changes and there's transformation within your body, your network of people and friends are going to want to know what it is that you're doing, and that's that entry point that you can share with them. So be kind, share it, love on them, and spread the word about that example. And my biggest thing is, since the pandemic has taught me that we must live each and every day.
Allah.
When we were home because we couldn't work, it was stressful because, you know, our worlds were turned upside down. With that system, that program, get up, you go to work, be at work all day, and you come home and you do whatever you do. But now you're in with your family or not. Some people were mainly alone, and you had to figure out, well, what's important? If now I can't do that thing, what do I do?
Right.
And it's, well, I want to live. I want to go outside, take a walk, feel the air. Springtime comes. Look at the trees as the leaves are turning another color. You have the time now. Take an early morning walk. It is amazing just to see that beauty unfold that you would not have seen any other time because you were at work. You never had a chance to take that walk. Or if you were taking a walk, you were thinking about work and stressed out about this, that, and the third. So you never paid attention to it. But live in the moment.
Yes.
And my favorite words that I say and live by, love is all there is.
That's all it is.
No, receive it, give it.
Yes.
And what more can you ask for?
All right.
That's it.
Shamba, last words. What are your thoughts? Your last thoughts?
You know, a lot of people always say, so Shamba, how you going? I say, nah, it's not how you're going. I ask you how you're growing. And I'm hoping that you're growing up, because that's what I'm doing. I'm growing up. And I'd like to end, because tomorrow I believe is Valentine's Day, right? And so I want to offer a poem.
Monday.
The 14th.
Monday.
Yeah, the 14th.
But it's coming up. And I just want to honor you sisters, because I love me some Black women. You understand what I'm saying? Ain't no shame in my game.
We love you right back, brother.
Yes, we do.
This poem is for you. All right? And it's entitled Sorry for Being Different. Today is Valentine's Day. And I wanted to take a moment to explain why I did not get you roses, chocolates, or a naughty negligee. Why I secluded myself in silence in order to summon the right words for you, beautiful Black woman, to tell you what you mean to me. See, roses fade, chocolates, they melt. Clothes come off and are eventually thrown away. But not these feelings I have summoned from the most holy of holies. They are beyond words. They are formless, nameless, like air. Yes. Why, sister, you have become air to me in a suffocating world filled with great potential. See, air is one of the elements of life, and there could be no roses, no chocolates, no clothes without air. Like there could be no me without you, or you without me. No world without our testimony. So I'll stamp these feelings for you in the nameless, in the formless. The realm where spirit dances as the day disappears. I'm sorry that there are no roses, chocolates, or naughty negligee. I'm sorry for being different, but I hope this poem will do.
Bravo.
That's for me.
That was beautiful.
Hey,
That was beautiful. I want to thank you for that.
Yes.
beautiful.
Thank you.
I want to thank all
Thank
my
you.
guests for showing up tonight. I want to thank you, Shamba, for being our special guest. I want to thank you also, Mr. Khalid. Thank you for your
Yeah.
profound words. They were words of wisdom. We thank you for that. Miss
Yes.
Theresa Henry, as always, thank you so much. And a special thanks to my co-host, Miss Anita Crum. I want to thank you all here this evening. This is another edition of Real Talk with Real People, a candid conversation with Dr. Karoline Bethea-Jones. I am your host, and I hope to see you all again.